Let's talk Justice Center. That's something that's on a lot of people's mind. There's been posts on social media with some various pieces of information, some of it not quite right, some of it right. I know the county put out a release last week talking about what you guys agree on, which I think is very important. You agree on 9 out of 10 things having to do with this Justice Center. So that means, of course, the one thing you don't agree on becomes the big talking point. Let's talk through that a little bit. You all agree that there is a need for a courthouse. Let's talk a little bit about that. Who would like to start?
I could go first. First of all, I would like to point out that I agree with this board 90% of the time. I agree with my wife 60% of the time, yet somehow I've been married to her for almost 30 years. We can agree without being, or disagree without being disagreeable, rather. We can have spirited conversations, which this Board of County Commissioners has done on this project. The need exists. It's obvious. We are operating our court facility out of a building that is, well, what, 1975? Jen, you and I don't do numbers.
Yeah.
So somebody do the math on how old it is there. Plus out of a building that was launched in 1917 from a standpoint of safety, from a standpoint of speedy justice. By the way, we have a constitutional right to a speedy trial. But from the standpoint of just serving the citizens better, serving law enforcement better, serving law and order better, we need this building by all accord. I know Kevin has a far better grasp than I do even on alliterating this, but we all agree we need the building.
Yeah, I mean, our courthouse is being utilized over 70% of the time, which when we did the studies with our teams, they determined the national average is actually less than 40% of court time usage, and we're over 70, so nearly double what the national average is. And we're out of courtrooms, and we got more justices coming, so there is a need for it. You're not incorrect there, Scott.
I'll just dovetail off of that too. I mean, to tag on to both Commissioner James and Ross, when you look at the safety aspect of it, that's one thing. Prisoner transport in the same hallways as the victims in a lot of cases, or the juries, or even the judges and the staff. That is not a modern courtroom facility. That's not a modern court house facility. But then the utilization report that Kevin just mentioned, that was eye-opening to me, because I think we all had questions as far as how our courtrooms were being utilized and how much of the time, and what was actually being done in those courtrooms from a actual court proceeding standpoint. And so that utilization report that showed how heavily they were utilized, and as Kevin mentioned, compared to the national average, was very good information for us to get and to review and to discuss.
Yeah, and I would say even a safety issue, when you have to shut down corridors to allow prisoners to come through, is just not conducive anymore. It needs to be upgraded to where
it's not safe for the public. It's not safe for the detainees either, right? Because they could be at risk. So
exactly.
Yeah.
This is not something that we just came up with all of a sudden either. You know, the major facilities master plan was done even before Commissioner Maxey and I even got on this board, and that's already been 1.5 years. So this has had a long progressive time of studying and questioning and revising and advising and studying again some more.
Let's pick at that for a second, because you guys have been in hours upon hours upon hours of meetings weekly. Yes. And the conversations and the discussions and the questions that you guys have talked through, and information you have requested, Commissioner Maxey, it's kind of a running joke, but it's true. You ask a lot of questions, which is great. And you've asked for additional information that the board has taken in. I want to hit on that, on those meetings, and what all you guys have discussed in those meetings, but also something else that I think is important that Commissioner Pepler brought up, which is that master facilities plan. So there's been some numbers floating around on what this judicial center will cost, this justice center. But we haven't really put out any numbers because you guys don't have firm numbers. We have approximates, and those are probably fairly close, but they're nowhere near what that initial number that was brought out during that master facilities plan. So can you guys talk about the meetings and the discussions, and also that master facilities plan, because that's an important part of this conversation, and that kind of kicked everything off, because strangely enough, this county had never done a comprehensive master facilities plan to look at what it costs to maintain the buildings we have. And if anyone wants to throw in what it costs to maintain that Centennial Center, please feel free. Who would like to pick on that one?
To completely refurb that Centennial Center to where we would fully utilize perhaps where the district attorney is now. If we were to find another facility for the district attorney to refurb that part that the district attorney occupies and turn that into courtrooms, I think we could get 2 additional courtrooms. And guys, check me if I'm wrong. I believe we
That's
could get
correct.
2 additional courtrooms if we did that. It takes care of Centennial. The Centennial Building in Plaza West. So all 3 of those facilities are served by one HVAC plant. That has to be replaced regardless. That's $40 million. If we were to refurb and get 2 new courtrooms out of where the DA sits now, that's a total of $100 million. We paid $3.5 million for that facility when it was built in 1975. I have been teased about making comments like $40 saddle on a $4 horse. We're going to put $100 million saddle on a $3.5 million horse. I don't think that's a good investment.
It's not, and to go back to the initial comment about the facilities master plan, Jen, I think that was strategic that we did here in the county. It had never been done before, and too often it was just kind of reshuffling the deck, moving departments around, trying to make space. And then within a year or two, they were already out of space because of how we've kind of just moved people around and tended to immediate needs versus getting a long-term plan and really looking into the condition of our buildings. And when that facilities master plan came out, it really identified all of the capital needs we had in the county. And that price tag came in at a $1.4 billion price tag to fix, renovate, and potentially build buildings that we needed for our growing county. And not that the size of government is growing, because all 5 of us fight every day to keep it to not grow and keep it as small as possible, but to continue maintaining the level of service that our residents have expected in the fastest growing county in the country. There is some growth, and there's needs for new facilities as they age out. And like Scott said, come to end of life, like the Centennial Building. And so what it identified primarily as your first need was a justice center, which I think was highlighted for us, and that's what we've been working on, as well as a civic building, which I would call an admin building. But that would encompass a lot of departments there. But we're definitely taking on the courts, figuring that this is the right moment to do it because of the new judges coming on board and the lack of space.
Just to talk about timeframes real quick and questions that we all ask.
Well, maybe
Lynette
you just
said,
ask. You're the ones that
maybe just me, yeah. Lynette alluded to this, but this project, this master plan, these discussions about county facilities started happening well before she or I became a part of this board. In fact, for those that don't know, when I was on staff here at Weld County, I was a part of the master plan discussions as a staff member about office space for my former department. And so, getting to see behind the curtains for that process, but then that was very, very kind of focused on my department and what we did as far as oil and gas goes. Seeing it from the county commissioner standpoint and looking at all the facilities overall, I mean, that was a lot of information to try to digest. There's still a lot of information to try to go through and understand on a daily basis, even because new information is always coming up. And so we all ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of debate and discussion that happens. And whenever new information comes up, or whenever a new study gets shown to us, or a new cost estimate gets shown to us, new information could modify that direction or some of the decisions that we're making also. So it's not like this has been just a single path or a single mindset vision since when Lynette and I got on board, and we've been marching in the same direction. There's been all these little twists and turns due to new information that we've been given, new discussions that we've had. It happens, right? And so to say that this has not been a fully vetted and a intensely discussed topic would just be factually untrue.
We've been advised by many different staff members and stakeholders and public and consultant. And the further we got in any of the just even small decisions leading into the larger ones, the more questions we had and the more research and the more consulting. And the deeper you dig, the deeper you end up having to dig. It just keeps snowballing. And my goodness, we're at multiple meetings every single week since we've been in here discussing all these little nuances and what if we did this and what if we did that. We've had those community input sessions, and even going back to that Centennial building again, even if we did that whole remodel and gutting it and the $100 million to do the roof also, it'd still be lacking in the modern safety that we've already discussed.
True, very true. And Commissioner Maxey, when we teach you about asking questions, we are
You do it
appreciating.
lovingly.
We are appreciating
lovingly.
the fact that you're wanting to learn.
Yes.
And that goes with Commissioner Pepler, all the commissioners. So we tease you about it, but it shows that you're paying attention and you're wanting to learn and looking at it through different angles. And that's something that I really hope the residents of the county really understand, is that it's not an exaggeration, the amount of time you guys have spent and those rabbit holes you have gone down on this project. Real quickly, let's talk about decisions as a commissioner and why people elect elected officials to make those decisions. We've seen some big projects come up where people said we should vote on them. Let's talk about 14-8 and where you guys don't agree, because you do agree that there is a new justice center that's needed. You agree that this board is not going to pursue a tax increase or a bond measure. You've all agreed that the Justice Center should be located in downtown Greeley. So let's talk about that fourth point that was in the release, that you all agree that you must honor and comply with the Home Rule Charter, specifically Section 14-8. But that's where the hiccup is as far as not having a 5-0 board on this. Who would like to talk about the differences and where you guys are? 3 of you have agreed that defining it as projects, as 3 different projects, sorry, would meet that, and 2 of you don't quite agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because it is something that is important where it comes down to defining a word and what you guys think that proper definition is.
I'll jump in.
The prevailing side, go first. Yeah,
I'll go. It's not easy. I think everyone is adhering, as they believe, to the charter and adhering to 14-8. So I'll start off with that, because I don't think anybody on this board has any intentions of going against that by any mean. We just disagree on the definition of what a project is, because it's not defined clearly in the charter. And so as we go to that, it's how each of us gets to that definition. And so as I look at the definition of what a project is, I'm looking back in history, and I'm looking at various things the county has done previously. Things like, County Road 49. You could look at that as one road, or you could look at that as a series of 3 projects. The south of 34 was built, over the river was built, and then north of the river was built to come up with that entire build. It'd be a similar deal for the jail, but that had a lot more time separation between the 3 projects that the jail consisted of, but someone could still look at the jail as one project or a series of projects. And so that's when it comes down to being, when it continues to be gray, where I fall back on is really fiscal conservativeness, right? What are those other values to which we hold to here in the county? And that is making sure we protect the taxpayers' dollars to the utmost and make sure we save them and are as frugal as possible with those. And for me, the least expensive way to do this series of projects is just that, a series of projects. And it keeps the ball rolling and breaks this down into an area where we're going to have multiple bids, multiple bid points. As you break it down into bids for building the garage, bids for building the core and shell, bids for the TI or the tenant improvement finish. These are all off ramps at any time where the Board of County Commissioners can get out of this project. It's no different than going out and buying commercial real estate. When you go buy a new building, you always have to go in and modify it to meet your needs. And if the board was to get out of it after the shell was built, then another company would buy it and get that asset from the county and finish it out as they see fit. So that's how I look at it, is a series of projects and being fiscally responsible for the residents.
I can start on the reasons that I don't agree with Commissioners Ross, Buck, and Pepler, and I know Commissioner Maxey will hop in here as well. I agree in the fiscal conservatism aspect of things and the fact that there's no better time to build it than now. We've heard on a project this size, with inflation the way it is and the way that what the cost of goods are, about $1 million a month is what it costs us if we continue to delay this decision. However, I view two projects that are here. I can agree with the fact that the parking garage is a standalone facility. That facility has its own form and its own function, and it can operate independently. I do not agree with Commissioner Ross's point that the building itself is two different projects. I believe it is just one. And so I believe it has one form, it has one function. I believe the time to build it is now, but Section 14.8 of our charter says we can't spend any more than 3 mills over 3 years. That total is, in today's budget dollars, about $177,504,000 and some change. The core and shell and the tenant finish, what I consider to be one project, is $260 to $300 million, depending on how we deck it out in the very end. But either number exceeds the charter. The charter is clear that we can spend that money if we take it to a vote of the people, and the vote of people approve. And I think that Commissioner Maxey, if I have misrepresented our position on that, please add. But that's what I believe.
Lynette, you want to go, or do you want me to go next?
Well, sure. Well, there isn't clarity as to whether there needs to be time in between the projects, or physical distance, or funding separation. We looked at buildings, individuals that might be connected, or a building that would be added onto at a later time, or one small building that would meet our absolute minimum possibly right now and still have the modern security measures. And then we look at this full build out of exterior as a potential project with the interior finished later. How much later? Maybe a week, maybe years, maybe, again, as Commissioner Ross mentioned, something happens. We have another 2013 flood, we have another pandemic, something like that. And then it gives us the ability, or the next board, the ability to step out of that if they have to, and not be stuck with, give an example of that building on Highway 34 and approximately 23rd Avenue that's sitting in Greeley, that is just this half-done wood structure. We wanted to try to have something to where at least we could complete a piece at a time. Could still be divided by contractors, maybe different funding mechanisms. It would give these off-ramps and still allow us to do a part of a time. Not too much different than a house with an unfinished basement, or maybe a big warehouse that's built. And then at some point later, it might get offices or bays or an event center, an apartment installed. So again, different projects.
So I think within this discussion, we see exactly kind of the point of this entire Take 5 session, that we agree on a lot of things, but yet there are things that we don't see exactly the same. And I think overwhelmingly, all of us would agree that that is a good thing. If we all saw the same thing all the time, and we all were in agreement all the time, or all in disagreement, unified every time, that would not be a good board in any situation, let alone the Board of County Commissioners. And so I, for one, am thankful that we have robust dialogue and debate on topics. And this is one of those topics. I agree with Kevin and Lynette on certain things, especially the fiscal conservatism that has been talked about. And Scott mentioned that. The big part that we're not seeing the same is literally when it comes down to the first 3 words of 14-8, which say any one project. That's how 14.8 starts off, any one project. And when I think of a project, I think of a fully functioning thing, so that when we are done building something, in this case, it can stand on its own as a fully functioning project, a fully functioning building, whether that's a road or a building project that we're talking about right now. So when we talk about this Justice Center project, for those that don't know, we are talking about a parking garage along with a Justice Center for the new courts. The new courts we are looking to build would be about 24 courtrooms in this building, along with future growth potential. I can get behind, as Commissioner James said, that a parking garage from day one, when that thing opens and is done being constructed, that can be a standalone project because it will be fully functional for what it was intended to do. When we talk about building the Justice Center and having 24 courts in it and room for expansion for our judges in the future, to me, a fully functioning building means that on day one, we could move into that and we could hold court that day. If we break it up into multiple projects or phases and have a core and shell and then another project for finish, that is not fully functioning on day one. I don't think that those two are one project. And that's, I think, where we just have a little bit of a misalignment between some of our opinions.
So I'm going to jump in here right now because I do feel there are two perspectives on this, and I am still torn. I have not basically, in my heart of minds, have committed, as I am still seeking a lot of information out in the public, making a lot of phone calls, seeing how they see it. And it is still a 50-50. I have not been swayed one way or the other, whether you can take Jason, and I get what he's saying. It's not a functional courthouse to begin business, but I can also see it as Kevin, where you have 3 off-ramps in 3 different projects. So I am still doing an awful lot of listening. I think this project does keep turning, shifting every day that we're studying it. So I am still reaching out to the public, and I encourage the public to reach out to me. I would say, though, that I've never been fearful of putting anything out there to the public to give us their opinion. And so stay tuned.
Give your phone number, Buck. What's your phone number?
970-302-4013.
There you go, folks. You heard it. Call Perry directly.
What's funny about part of this discussion is, at least on my screen, I have Kevin and Lynette, and me and Scott, and Perry's right in the middle. So it.
Oh, there you go.
But I appreciate the opportunity to share my opinions because I think it is a wonderful board, great to work with each and every one. I have so much respect and Jason and Scott's aspect on this, and I have tremendous respect for Kevin and Lynette's. I think I'm still doing as much commitment to learning more from what the public's thinking, because I don't want to think that we're doing anything behind closed doors. I want to be completely transparent, and I think we have been. But again, since this office can be a bubble, we're not always listening to what is being said outside because we haven't had that much time. We don't have a county manager, so we're very, very busy with meetings. So I still would like to do some more homework.
So I appreciate you guys being willing just to get on and as we said, wing it. Usually I try and give you guys some topics. What if we talk about this or that? And since I came blowing in at my usual 5 after 8 and didn't realize this was at 8:15. I appreciate everybody hopping on. I do want to end with one quick question, though. I wrote down a quick note. I'm not an attorney. We all know that. I'm not going to play one in this scenario, but knowing Weld County's history, I'm guessing that part of the charter 14-8 is in there to help control spending of commissioners. Given everything that you guys have gone through to date, all the meetings, all the questions, all the information, regardless of where you fall, whether it's 3 projects or 1 project, do each of you feel like the numbers and the information you have been given fit in the spirit of 14-8 with regard to spending?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our
Absolutely.
council has been solid, has talked about options. The information that we have regarding 14-8 and everything else is top notch. It literally just comes down to that which people elected us to do, to make a decision on the behalf of the public. That's constitutional republic. That's the way it works, and we're not always going to agree. But I can say that this process has been decidedly transparent. This process has been decidedly open, and it's the way government should work. I'm proud of the process. I may disagree with a couple of you, but I'm proud of the process.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better, Scott.
I've got a little last comment. I feel like it's a shame that there's a few individuals that are being so critical of the decisions that this board's been making, especially individuals that haven't been here to learn the massive amounts of information that we have been learning and churning, processing through. It's real easy to sit back and be an armchair quarterback when you're not the one that's doing the work and the effort that takes to get to this point.
Well, I appreciate the work and effort you guys are doing. And we will be putting more and more information out on the website. So stay tuned to that. The link will be in the comments for this video. And I appreciate all the work you guys do every day. And you have a board meeting to get to. So happy Wednesday, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Good.